job about my profession. As has already been said, my name is Kahlief Steele. I am a graphic designer. If you have any follow-up questions that we're unable to get to today, you can email me at kahlief.com. That's KAHLIEF.com. Also, you can follow me on Instagram if you want to see more of my work. That is at Kahlief underscore, KAHLIEF underscore. And if you all could just do me a favor when we're done with this, if you could just go on to Instagram and do your best, just type in Kahlief without the underscore and report that guy. Okay, he hasn't made a post in years, and I really want that handle. So the only way is if we can all work together and destroy him from the inside out. So please do that when you're done with this. If you do anything else today, do that. But yeah, with that said, let's get into it. So let's talk a little bit about me. I indeed graduated from Gravette High School in the year 2011. Go Lions. I also fully recognize that 2011, all of you were babies, which is gross to me. I hate that. But after that, I went to school at Missouri Southern State University in Joplin, Missouri. And there I earned a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in graphic design and a minor in marketing. So what that basically meant for me is I was able with the BFA, the Bachelor of Fine Arts, that meant that I had to do more like studio art classes. So that was drawing, painting, any sort of like hands-on work. Like I took a jewelry making class, which I got a D in. It wasn't my fault, but I got a D in it. But that also meant that, but with the minor in marketing, I also got to see a little bit of the business side of things too, which was really helpful. Um, so a little bit more about me. I married my high school sweetheart. She was the cheerleader. I was the football player. Classic, am I right? We got married, and then a little while later, we now have these two beautiful baby girls who wear matching pajamas all the time. I love them very much. They are my world. They're so cute, and it really somehow because they're so cute, it makes it all worth it when they're up at 3 in the morning puking. So very fun times. As a kid, I always loved art. I was just always drawing, always sketching, always coloring. And that really continued to grow as I became a teenager. I started messing around with things on the computer, and I even got into photography a little bit. But as I was growing up, I realized that it was kind of difficult to make a living if you were just an artist by yourself. And when I realized that, I kind of had this face about me. Okay, um, it was rough. It was a real culture shock. A pro tip, do not stare into the sun if you are taking a picture. Nobody warned me. Like my friends over here, they're doing great, but nobody warned me, and so that's my face. And so that really led me to graphic design. Okay, design is a great career in which you can merge that creative side of you with a way to actually make money and provide for yourself or provide for your family. I also was really into computers, and so graphic design was really just the perfect thing because a lot of the graphic design you do today is on a computer. So moving on from there, what does graphic design actually look like? What do you actually do with graphic design? The answer to that is it's complicated because there's so many different options. So here are just a few of the things that I've worked on. Okay, one is logos. Okay, any sort of business that needs a logo, any sort of event that needs a logo, any sort of organization that needs a logo needs a logo, and so somebody has to design that whether they are logging into Canva and doing it probably ineffectively, or if they are hiring an entire agency to design a logo for them. Logos are a huge part of graphic design. So I've done, you can see here, I've done a lot of different logos for a variety of different clients, ranging from jewelry to athletics to like nonprofits, so a little bit of everything. And another example is I had the opportunity to basically entirely brand Neosho High School, Neosho School District rather, based in Neosho, Missouri, and that involved making a mascot logo for them, making sure that all of their brand guidelines were set up. And it was quite the ordeal. It took several months to actually get all of the things done for it. But I really knew that I made it when a few years later I saw this. Okay, this is some dude who's rocking yellow camo, which is probably the worst type of camo to wear. But this is the Western Wildcats. And yes, that means that these people copied my logo, used it as their mascot. And like that puts me up with like the Philadelphia Eagles. That puts me up with the Green Bay Packers. Okay, any like G that you've seen, that's probably the Green Bay Packers logo. So I have officially made it. I could retire right now and I would be fine. Outside of logos, I also do some websites. Again, anybody who needs presence on the internet, which is a huge thing right now, obviously, will need a website. And so I've made websites for restaurants, for other organizations. I made a website for a skydiving place once. And all of those things were really fun. It's a whole different type of design. But the good thing is that with a lot of these types of design, I didn't have to code this. Like I literally just made it look pretty and then sent it off to the coder to actually develop the website. And so that was it's really nice because if you are a person who's like, oh, I want to make websites or design websites, but I don't actually want to learn the coding, that's okay. That is 100% okay, and that is how most of the industry works. So you're good there. Also, I've done some packaging. This was for a candy shop. It's Copper Kettle, obviously. But we did some bags for them. We did also some boxes. I've also done merch for a variety of people. So that includes shirts, that includes bags, water bottles, coffee mugs, a little bit of everything. Anything that anybody wants to sell or get in the hands of people that their business trusts or is friends with, I've designed that as well. And then also I'm just going through it all, y'all. Social media graphics, okay? Everybody needs social media graphics, so here are a couple that I made. One was for UCA, and then this was for another organization. I've also made album covers for bands. So this, if you can type this in Spotify right now and go find it, go listen to it. It's a great song, a couple of great songs. And then I've also done some animation. Okay, here is a little animation I did just on my own time that was really just kind of a test for me to figure out what I could actually do. But I've also made projects like this for a variety of clients as well. And then I also have this example of animation. This one's more of like a hand-drawn looking one. I made this for World Adoption Day. I am adopted, and two wonderful parents came into my life and brought me into their family with their three girls, which was crazy, but it was a lot of fun, and I'm so thankful for them. So I hope from this you can gather that there are a variety of things that you can do through graphic design. If you wanted to focus on just one of these things, that's completely okay. If you wanted to just be a social media graphic designer, that's fine. If you wanted to just be a merch graphic designer, that's fine. I feel fortunate to be able to work on a variety of things every day, so I don't get bored. But you could certainly just focus on one of these things. And that's really the great part about graphic design. So as far as the education piece of it goes, what does that look like? So if you're looking to maybe study graphic design in college or university or maybe like a tech program, you'd probably be looking at something like a graphic design degree, obviously. Also a multimedia design that's more of like video and animation, that sort of thing. And then UX design. And UX design is just designing for websites or designing for apps, okay, the interactions that people have on those platforms. The good thing about graphic design, though, is that you don't have to go to school in order to make it. Like if you're creative enough and your work is good enough, you people will hire you even if you have never gone to college for it at all. One of my best friends and greatest designers that I have ever had a chance to work with is he got started. He graduated high school and started working at basically a newspaper shop, and he would set up all the articles, making sure that they were organized properly, and eventually that led him to working at the same agency that I was working at. Which was really cool. It's crazy that you can do that as long as your stuff is good enough. Like People don't care how you get there, which is really great. It's not like I don't think you could be a doctor and not go to school. That's a little bit more of a high leverage situation. So, a little bit nicer there. Ooh, okay, there we go. So, some similar jobs to graphic design. So, UX or UI design, that is, like I said before, web design or app design. Okay. You also have social media content creation. So, some companies will hire a team or hire a person just to make content for them on social media, whether that be Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And that would be a pretty cool job. If you really just love making TikToks all day, you could literally do that for a job. As I said before, animation. There are entire animation houses where the only thing they do is make animation for commercials, or maybe they might assist on movies, things like that. Um, Illustration. So if you're wanting to be more of an artist, you could easily like open up an Etsy shop, or there are also places that maybe make like greeting cards, and you could specifically license your work to them. And then also photo editing. So if you're just really into editing a picture, if you're really good in Photoshop or Lightroom, there are places and companies that will pay you just to edit photos, which is just crazy. So who needs graphic designers? The short answer is everybody. Okay, hospitals, sports teams, nonprofits, schools, everybody who needs to have a message put out there is going to need a graphic designer. And the nice thing about design is that you can really kind of mold your career how you want to. So you could be a freelancer, which means that you don't have an official, like you're basically your own boss, and people will come to you and be like, "Hey, I need this," or "Hey, I need that." Or you could go work for a big business, say like a Walmart, and you could be in their in-house team and making stuff for Walmart all day. Or you could work at an ad agency, which is what I did as my first job. And people will come to this ad agency looking for a logo or looking for business cards, things like that. And so it's really nice in that you can basically anywhere that makes money is going to need a graphic designer. And so if you want to go work for a zoo, you can be a graphic designer for a zoo. If you want to go, work for like I said, a sports team, you can. There are plenty of opportunities available to you, no matter where you want to go. Now, let's talk about the thing y'all are really here for. Okay, it's time. Money, money. Okay, the starting salary or the hourly rate really depends on where you want to live. If you are comfortable living in a rural place, a small town, that's great. Love a small town. It's going to be a little bit. The actual number you will be making is a little bit less than you would make in a larger city. So let's kind of break it down a little bit. So a junior designer, which is near the bottom tier, maybe typically is an entry level position. If you are working in a rural area or a small town, which again was where I kind of got started, you were looking at around 35,000 to 45,000 a year. Okay, that goes roughly to like around like in between $15 and $20 an hour, if that makes sense, or $25 an hour. Um, and so, but if you were to go and live in a big city where it's more expensive to pay rent and buy things and everything, your actual salary would be around 65,000 to 85,000 a year. So that's already pretty far up there. Find a couple roommates and make a day of it. It'd be all right. Um, but as you continue to progress through the ranks, as you reach higher and higher up in the tiers of your career, eventually you would probably get to a creative director position, and that's really the top dog. In a small town, you would make around $60,000 to $80,000 a year. That's $30 an hour to $40 an hour. And then in a big city, this has a really big range. But basically, any big city, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, they're not paying a creative director anything less than triple figures. So $120,000 a year to $180,000 a year is really the baseline. So there's a lot of economic opportunity in graphic design as well. Um, as far as advancement opportunities go, there are several, and like I said before, you can kind of mold and craft your career as you would like. This was me in 2015. I was a junior designer, just got hired right out of college. But a few short years later, I was the creative director of the agency that I was in, and it was the creative director role was a lot different than my junior designer role, but it was a lot. It was still very rewarding. Basically, how it works is you start out, the very lowest tier that you can be is the production designer. Okay, you're doing very basic things. You're not actually creating much. You're really just laying things out. And then you move to a junior graphic designer. So you have a little bit more authority. You're still maybe not doing a whole lot on your own, but you are you're able to mess around a little bit. Senior graphic designer, maybe you're taking meetings with the client or being part of meetings with the client. Art director, you're actually coming up with the concepts for all of the advertisements, the designs that you're doing. And then creative director is where you're thinking like big picture, like what do we want our design agency to be able to do for these other people? What is the why behind the design? And so all of these, you can just stop at senior graphic designer if you're like, hey, I don't want to do meetings with the client. Like I'm good with just sitting in. If you wanted to just stay in your lane and be a production designer, that's completely fine too. You don't have to go this route if you don't want to. So, as we begin to wrap up, where do I work now? Right now, I am currently employed by Carefully Crafted. It is an agency based out of Springfield, Missouri. And I am the creative designer there, which basically means I do a little bit of everything. So, like I said, I do websites, I do video, I do billboards, I do business cards, and everything in between. And I have it's the best part about this job is that it is full-time remote. And that we don't even have an office, so there's not even a place to go into occasionally. It's just really nice. There's some people who want to be in an office, and like I miss people. I miss talking to other people than 2-year-olds a lot of the time. But it's very nice to be able to just walk out of my bedroom and walk 50 feet to my office as opposed to driving an hour to Joplin every day. So, that's all I got. Thank you so much again for listening. And I think that we have some time for questions. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, we do. I'll start out with a couple and other classrooms. If you come up with any questions, let me know. I guess I'll start out. You're talking about education. A couple questions there. But first, would you recommend a BFA?
For me, I person like if it is an opportunity, if it's an option, I definitely would because like I said, being able to have those studio art classes um your foundational level um of design, like knowing how to and one of the best parts is that you can go back and use some of those actual physical um uh talents and traits that you built up. Like I do a lot of sketching when I'm working on logos and things like that, and a lot of that foundation is built from the experience that I got in the BFA program.
Um, what about tools? What specific tools do you use? And what tools would you recommend high schoolers start using right now if they're interested in getting into this career?
Yeah, so right now the biggest thing is the Adobe Suite. So if you are your Photoshops, that's your Illustrator, your InDesign, all of those have different keys and everything. Photoshop was the one that I got started on. And you can do a little bit of everything in that. But definitely the Adobe programs. InDesign is really good if you're like laying out like a yearbook or if you have a larger document that you're having to lay out. Illustrator is perfect for logos, and then Photoshop is really good for the actual graphic design, social media graphics, that sort of thing. But definitely get locked in on the Adobe programs.
So if a student is really interested in this career, we know there's all these free upstarts online, the Pixlrs, the Canva, and everything. Um, but if you know that you're really interested in this, would one of those investments in Adobe be something that you would recommend? Is this a Christmas present you would ask for? Like,
Yeah, yeah, for
What's the
sure.
pros and cons versus the free software versus paying for it?
Yeah, the I would say that there are benefits to the free software. Canva is great for just figuring it out. So if you're really kind of on the fence, Canva is a great opportunity for you um, to be able to explore that. I would say that how Adobe does things right now is through a subscription, which is just the worst. So it is a little bit more difficult to be like, "Hey, mom, can you buy me a an annual subscription to Photoshop for the year?" But if that is not if that's available to you, there are plenty of discounts available for students. So that is 100% an option. I would just say that if you are able to and can just bite the bullet and get into Adobe, then that would be ideal. If not, then there are some free options that you can just mess around with and still do great stuff in.
I've got a couple questions from the students. Okay, so you do freelance in addition to working for your company. And I'm assuming this would
Correct.
be mostly a freelance question if you're up for it. A student has asked, what's the most money you've made for a single project?
Okay. So let me answer this in two ways. So the biggest freelance project that I've ever done, I want to say is probably it was a website. So me and my buddy split it. Um, but over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, it has resulted in probably $10,000. Um, the largest contract that my agency that I knew about that my agency had when I first started working was around $1.5 million. So $1.5 million, I guess, if you want to say it that way. And so that was paid out over the course of a year, of course. But the single most project I would say for me personally is around 10K.
Another question here, real quick. Do you think it's best to get that minor in marketing to be successful in graphic design?
The minor in marketing really helped me with the reasoning behind a lot of the designs. It was helpful for me to see, like, oh, if I make my design in this way, or like if I use these colors, then it will appeal to this group better than the other. And it also just helped me in meetings. I think that that is a big part of what helped me go from a junior designer all the way up to a creative director so quickly is that I was able to speak eloquently in the meetings and talk about actual things that related to the client and their business. If you're not in pursuing that route, then you don't have to get a minor in marketing. But it was something that was really easy for me to do, and I am definitely glad that I did it.
Okay, I think last question before we wrap up. Pros, cons, working for an agency versus freelancing.
Okay. Um, so that's a good question. Freelancing is nice in that you can 100% set your own schedule. If you're like, hey, I want to go to Disney World for 2 weeks, you can do that. If you want to be like, hey, I think that I'll start working at noon today, you can do that. The issue with that, the price of that freedom is that you are constantly doing the rest of the business. You are having to do marketing, you are having to do your bookkeeping, having to follow up with your client. In an agency setting, especially a larger agency, you would most likely just be designing. So they would have people in like customer relations who would handle following up with them. They'd have project managers who would actually manage the whole project. And there would be very little that you would actually have to do outside of design. The drawback to that is that it is typically a little bit less flexible in terms of your schedule, in terms of sometimes you might have coworkers that annoy you or a boss you don't like. But there are benefits to either one. Um, but I if you can find a full-time remote position where you meet once a week, that is the that's really the goal for me anyway.
Well, Kahlief, thank you so much for doing this. I know you've done one of these before. The students always respond positively to these. I don't know if you know that, but it's a delight to get to see you. It's a delight to hear about what you do. And if everybody could unmute, give him a big hand, let him know he's appreciated. I don't know if that actually works, or if you could just like wave your arms like this in your classroom so he can see that you care. Hey, okay, we can hear him. That's good.
Thank you. It is,
Hey,
like I said before, it is just a joy to be able to share it with you all. So thank you for that opportunity once again.
okay, thanks, Kahlief. See you around, man.
See ya. Have a good day.